Hi everybody, my name is Violet Chantal, and today, finally, I'm going to be returning to my Violet's Film Journal series that I started at the end of last year, 2023. I did 3 videos starting it, and 2 with my amazing friend Kevin Falk, and we're finally going to be continuing it. And today, we're going to be talking about a film that I'm very excited to talk about. I mean, all the films I see I'm excited to talk about, but this one I'm definitely excited to talk about. And we're going to be talking about Rose Glass's Love Lies Bleeding. So some general cast and crew information about this movie. So this is a film, like I said, directed by Rose Glass. This is, I believe, her second film. Her first film was a film called Saint Maud, which I have not seen that film actually, unfortunately. I've had the film recommended to me quite a bit, and I remember seeing the trailer like back in I think like the end of 2019 or beginning of 2020 or so. And looking really good, but I never got around to watching it. So this is my first experience from her. She also wrote this film. She's one of the writers on this film, and I have to say before I really get into any of my thoughts on like the overall film, as like a whole. One thing I want to say right off the bat about Rose Glass is just from this one film that I've seen from her, I really, really like the direction that she takes with things. I think she clearly has a lot of inspiration from surreal sort of works and like abstract sort of works, but I also feel like there is like a hint of like, and this is I don't know if I'm like reaching too far with this, but I feel like there's like a subtle hint of like exploitation genre influence in this, or just like really really like aggressive filmmaking in terms of like the emotions that are displayed and just like the gravitas of things and just how just harrowing of an experience this can be, and just like at its emotional core taking these aesthetics but also stripping it down to a pretty like straightforward and at times like minimalistic way. So when these bigger grand moments happen, they feel so much more in your face and so much more just like overwhelming, if that's a good word to use. And I really, really admire the direction that she takes because I really feel like you can see the influences, and that's a beautiful thing. But just the way that she decides to take all of those themes and ideas and put them into her own like vignettes and own styles, I think is incredible. And so let's get more into the film. As I have probably made it a bit obvious, I really like this film. I really like it. There's quite a few things I want to say about it. But I guess the first thing is when I was watching this film, there's a lot of stuff happening in this film. Like there's a lot of like complexities and a lot of like angles you can interpret it at. This film covers some very very heavy subject matters. Before I really get into like my overall overall conclusion of the film, though, quickly, if you do not know what this film is about a gym manager named Lou, played by Kristen Stewart, the amazing Kristen Stewart. And she meets somebody named Jackie, who is played by Katie O'Brien, who is fabulous in this movie. They're both fantastic, but I just want to quickly give a shout out to Katie O'Brien, because I haven't really seen her in really anything. I think she was in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I did see that movie. But I don't really like remember her in that movie, honestly. But I was looking at her IMDb. I believe she's in that. But yeah, no, I haven't really seen her in anything, and she's phenomenal in this movie. Kristen Stewart's incredible. I mean, she's incredible in like everything that she's in. So that's not a shocker at all. But basically, those two characters meet each other, and a romance blooms. Good old sapphic chaos ensues, and yeah, no, and I'll just leave it from there. Some stuff happens involving Lou's father, Lucine, who's played by Ed Harris, who is fantastic in this movie. And there's some other things that happen involving like Lou's like sister and like her husband and all this stuff. I don't want to get into it too much. I feel like I'd be overstepping, a little bit. But those are the basic baseline details of what happens in this film. And as I was watching this film, to get into my overall like conclusions and takeaways from this film, the main thing that I really took away is like I'd say like a subtle sort of like spoiler. It's not like a major spoiler, it's just sort of like how I like interpret the whole film, I suppose. It begins the film talking about, and it's a theme throughout the whole film. The film, how it decides to point out and symbolize its main, I think, core, like what Rose Glass is trying to specifically speak with the film overall is like an emotional core. It comes down to like cigarettes, and the way that they describe it is sort of like, like these habits are like they say this over like the radio or something at the beginning of the film, and it's someone talking about how like cigarettes and like nicotine and like tobacco are really like bad for people, but like they're using it to like mask their like insecurities or just like overall like isolation feelings. I might be throwing in some words that they don't quite say it, but I remember like insecurity is a word they do use, but basically just like masking like the feelings, but like it's also like actually making it worse. And to me, this film overall, and what I take away from it so much, and I thought was so brilliant about it, is this film overall, in my opinion, is really, really about just from like that idea being introduced and seeing how it like the idea is present throughout the entire movie. I really, really feel like this film is really about, at the end of the day, people gravitating towards the things that comfort them the most, but are actually wrecking them the most. And it is, when you see it in the context of the film, the events that are presented to you that are displaying these ideas and they're being conveyed to you as an audience member, it is harrowing and terrifying and really, really impactful. And there was just so many moments that had me in just a sense of just like pure like overwhelming just like horror and also sadness. This film is also very, very sad. This film is about broken people, and there's just such like a hopelessness to the film, like you're trying to hold on so closely, but it's like you're already like gone in a way, and I think it's just absolutely just like riveting, but also just really, really disturbing. I don't want to get more into it than just saying that like that's the aspect, because I'm getting into spoiler territory and I do not want to do that. But there is, again, just so much about this film, just theme wise, that just really, really, I adored. I absolutely adored. And some other things about the film that I thought were really, really interesting is the film, how it explores, and I'll be as like careful as I can with this, but how the film decides to explore sort of like the backgrounds of characters and the past of characters. And because like this film reminds me a little bit of how like David Lynch and Mark Frost did Twin Peaks: The Return, where like it's like in a current setting, but like the past is like dictating the future like entirely. And this film is very, very similar to that, where it's like just showing like the present and the past stuff. Like of course like with Twin Peaks: Return, like you saw the whole original series and Firewalk with Me, and the missing pieces. But this one's obviously a bit different because it's like its own singular story. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is in Twin Peaks: The Return, it's 25 years after the original ending of the show. And it just starts, and it doesn't like it just starts, and like you're in the present moment, and it's not like setting things up really, like things are just happening. And there's a little bit of setting up in this movie just because we're being introduced to the characters and the world, but a lot of it is never like really elaborated on. Like there's some things that are, but there's just so much here that is just like happening, and like it just like the way that it presents just like trauma repression. And specifically what I really, really admired about it is there's a use of like an overall like red hue over some images, and it to me, like, again, a little bit of a side spoiler, but like it sort of like signifies sort of like these like, I'd say like PTSD sort of like flashback like trigger things, and it's all in this like red hue, and it's very like surreal and like really, really just sudden. And like the edits and the cuts, quickly, I just want to quickly say also, this film is edited by Mark Towns. Did a phenomenal job editing this movie. This movie has some very, very like off guard and very like I think just like offbeat sort of like edits, I guess. Just things that get you like sort of startled on the way, and I really feel like it complements the tone of the film so well, and just sort of like just like the chaos of it all, and just like the franticness of it all, and just how fast things are moving. And it just complements how like the characters are trying to slow it down so much, but like they absolutely cannot. And when you just combine all of those ideas and the aesthetics and the atmosphere with like the directing and writing by Rose Glass, it is absolutely phenomenal. And so yeah, and just seeing like those moments of like this like red hue and just this overall just like pure direct like very like specific moments, because like when you have trauma and you have like PTSD and you reflect or are triggered by certain things, your mind is very fixated on like very like specific key points of that trauma, and this film signifies it like that, and does it in a way that it really like speaks to the story, but also I feel like is a very realistic portrayal of like PTSD and trauma, while being aesthetically like really fascinating. And just when it comes together with those themes of also like the themes of like absorbing and loving and just like being like consumed by the things that are comforting you the most but are actually like destroying you and, you know, killing you, and just taking like advantage of you, like when all that comes together, it's an overall exploration of just like grief and trauma and just like moving on, but like the past dictating the future. Just like there's so many complexities to this film. I hope I'm explaining it well. I apologize if I'm not, but it explores everything so well, I feel like, while still being like subtle in some ways, and I really appreciate that about the film. One thing I also have to say is, you know, talk about the directing a bit. Like, this movie goes for it pacing wise. Like, it absolutely goes for it. Like, this film, like, it sets up the atmosphere and the characters, and then, like, when it hits, like, the 25 half-hour mark, like, it just goes from there. And I loved it. It never lets you go. It has just such a strong, like, hold on you, and it's terrifying at points, but, like, you have to just keep, like, absorbing all of these like changes in the stories and like character progressions and just like moods and atmospheres and just overall like feelings of things and just like new visual like ideas and changes. And, you know, I just think that like the movie just has such a grip on you, like conceptually, and just like the way it keeps moving and moving with like the terror of it all and the sadness of it all, and like the shocking aspects of things that happen. I think it just like, as an audience member, it just like throughout the whole thing, it's such about these ideas and you see these characters and you latch on to some of the ideas, and then seeing them just elevate and evolve. It's incredible to see. One thing too I quickly want to say before I forget it. The music in this film is composed by Clint Mansell, and the sound mix is by Rose, I hope I pronounced his name right, Bloody. I don't think I pronounced that correctly. I'm so sorry. But I want to combine those two things together because the music in this movie is a massive reason of why the tension and the atmosphere and like the feeling of the movie in general is as effective as it is. The best way I can describe the soundtrack to this movie, and I really thought about this, it kind of hit me during the film. The soundtrack to this movie sounds like a mix of like the first two albums by the band Suicide, mixed with like the score of like the Blade Runner movies, like specifically the first Blade Runner movie, with like a little bit of a hint of like new wave like techno music from like the 80s that had like lyrics and stuff like that. It really feels like that, but specifically it feels like the band Suicide mixed with like Blade Runner, and I think it's just fabulous because you have like these like pretty melodic like key chord stuff, but then when you have like these like really like subdued like drums come in with just like these bassy, just like very like pixelated sounding like textures, and it just like you're seeing it presented with these like visuals that can be really varying and like what they're trying to make like the audience member feel or convey in terms of like symbolism, or progressing the story and like the characters. I mean, it comes together in a way that I thought was just so just like grand, but also was like very like sophisticated in a way, and I loved it. Like I really loved it. Like there's a point at the end of the movie also where like those like subtle like drums and the subdued drums, like it still reminded me of like the band Suicide, but it also reminded me specifically of a mix of like Aphex Twin's Richard D. James album and Silk and Emmy Works Volume 2. Reminded me a little bit of that. Selective Memory Volume 2 is like one of like my top like 10 favorite albums of all time, and so I very specifically was like, this sounds like that. It sounds like number 19, you know. It was really really cool. Yeah, no, I just love the music to this film, and just like the sound mix also, like the way that like the audio will like pan and like it like surrounds you like soundscape wise and atmosphere is terrific. Like definitely if you can go see this one in theaters, just because like it's such a like an experience that like it's really really gonna like consume you if you get into the film like the way I did, and just seeing it project on such like a big screen with the sound where it's panning, and just like the loudness of things and the way that things like crescendo and the dynamics. I think it just like it's marvelous. One thing also quickly, just to like point it out, the cast in this film, everybody is amazing in this movie. Like I said, Kristen Stewart, Katie O'Brien, Ed Harris, Jenna Malone as the character Beth, Dave Franco as the character JJ. Dave Franco's acting in this movie is so like icky and disturbing, but just like it feels so real, and like it's really just like it really really like crawls under your skin. And I'm not gonna pronounce her last name because I know I'm gonna mess it up, but there's an actress in this movie. Her first name is Anna. She plays a character named Daisy. She is honestly, I think my favorite performance in the movie. I absolutely loved her. I thought she was so so good. Like she has to portray a very specific kind of personality, and just sort of this like desperateness, but just like very like clingy, sort of just like desperate kind of like love nature. I don't know how to describe it without getting into it too much, but just the way that she captures it is just so like genuine, and there's like sort of like manipulative aspects to it also, and just like the way that she conveys all of that is it's so like you have to really really have a lot of control as an actor and awareness to really pull off a role like that, and she does an incredible job at doing that. I was really impressed. I hate I cannot pronounce the last name. I'm so sorry. I know I'm gonna butcher it. I do not want to like be offensive or anything. And but like Anna, like you did a great job, girl. Be proud of yourself. And so yeah, the acting in this film in general is just it feels so real, and the actors really complement the roles well, and just like and they really have to go for it emotionally. They go for it. Yeah, no, just as an audience member, like just leaving this film, like I really just took away just like the feeling of it all, and just like the sadness and disturbing aspects of it all. You know, like the film really leaves you just with like seeing so many things that like subvert your expectations also, and are just so just like out of nowhere and overwhelming, but they feel so well timed in place, and nothing really seems random in this film or just like forced, honestly. It really, really is just like a beautiful blend of so many ideas and inspirations with its own like signature feel and tone. And it just, I think it's just a really, really good movie. And I think Rose Glass, I'm gonna have to see Saint Maud. I think that she's a filmmaker I'm gonna have to keep up with. I'm really impressed by the direction here and the writing, because there's so many ideas happening here, but the way that she goes for it, it has the right amount of like, what can I say, like mystique to it, but also just like harrowing nature of it all, but also just like overall like I don't even know how to describe. Just like the feeling of it all is just so well executed, in my opinion, while still leaving the audience with their own like feelings to like consider, like with throughout the story and how it's progressing, and like their own like view of like the terror of it all, and just like how just like crazy of an experience this can really be, and it can be a brutal experience also. And I think she just does a marvelous job in handling all of it. You know, one thing I'd say about the acting, one more thing, but also just the film in general, the chemistry in this movie is so palpable, and it is so just genuine, and just like the way that everything comes together, obviously of course the acting, but just like everything in general, it just complements each other really well while still taking risks and being daring. It is a very impressive film in my opinion, and I really liked it, and I think that's all I have to say, because I feel like I would be going in circles if I kept going. This film overall is a harrowing experience, and the themes and stuff it explores I think are brilliant. I think it's a really, really good film. I recommend seeing it in theaters, visually, sound-wise, aesthetically. It is really, really well done, and will challenge you and subvert your expectations, and do things that like you're not going to see in many modern day movies, honestly. And so yeah, no, I think that it's really, really good. You know, it's hard to make movies that show people having connections like this quite this well, especially when it involves like romance and stuff like that, with some of the subject matters this film tackles, and the way that this film does it is really, really well done, and I really recommend it for all of those reasons. And so, yeah, so I think that is my little review thought. I don't even know what to call these. I'm just talking about movies and just like rambling about movies. And so yeah, but I wanted to just do that video quickly about this movie. I mean, I'm filming it right now. But Love Lies Bleeding. Yes, very good movie, recommended. But yeah, no, I will be back with more videos about movies and film, hopefully soon. With that said, thank you all for watching this video. Hope everyone is doing safe and healthy and listening to all their friends and family and all their loved ones in general. Yeah, no, and thank you all for watching. And yeah, no, I guess I'll leave it at that. Alrighty, thank you guys. Bye.